Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, editor-in-chief of pharmaphorum. I'm here at JP Morgan 2026. I'm in San Francisco. I'm joined by Cary Claiborne, the Chief Executive Officer of Adial Pharmaceuticals. Welcome, thanks for chatting with me.
Well, thanks for having me.
So tell me about Adial. What's your sort of focus area and your differentiator?
Yeah, so we're a clinical stage company. We're trade public on NASDAQ, symbol ADIL. We're focused on alcohol addiction. Our lead program is in phase 3 clinical development to treat alcohol use disorder, also known as alcohol addiction.
And what's your mechanism of action there?
So our drug is a repurposed drug of a dancetrine, which has been on the market for 30 years at much higher doses under the brand name Zofran. Our dose is an ultra low dose of a dancetrine, which is a serotonin 3 blocker. So it works in the brain that impacts the dopamine reward system. And the way it treats alcohol use disorder is it lowers the cravings and takes away the impulse to drink. So we're a precision treatment, so it's not for everyone. But if you test positive for a certain genetic biomarker, our data has shown that ADO4, the lead drug, can suppress those cravings and the impulse, and we see patients go from heavy drinking down to moderate levels of drinking.
What's the path to getting to a patient with alcoholism? Because so often that's something that doesn't come up in the doctor's office. People struggle with it on their own. They think that the only way to manage it is to go to meetings and talk it
Right.
out. So how do you get the word out that this is actually a disease that can be treated with a therapeutic?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I mean, there's estimated that 30 million people potentially suffer from alcohol use disorder in the United States alone, and less than 5% actually seek any kind of treatment because of some of the factors you just mentioned. So we think our approach will be different, and we base this on research with physicians that a lot of times people are in the doctor's office. They've had that physical. The doctor sees some things in the labs. And if we're honest about filling out the surveys about how often you drink and exercise, and they see a trend and they bring it up, I notice you've been drinking more than you have in the past. They get an immediate negative reaction from the patient. And they say, that's not me. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Let's not even talk about it. When we talk about how our approach will work with physicians, because it is a precision treatment based on a genetic test, they say they would have that same conversation, but then they would say, but there's a test we can actually give you. It's a simple DNA test. And if you test positive for a certain biomarker, there's a drug that may help you drink less. And they feel like the patient would then say, hey, you know what? I'd be interested in learning more about that. Because in some ways, it takes it away from a behavioral issue that someone may have in terms of they're struggling with drinking to the reason. Oh, maybe it's something in my DNA, or maybe it's in my ancestry that's causing me to struggle with alcohol. And they feel like that's going to open the door to a lot more patients agreeing to take the test. And then if they test positive, they're a candidate for the treatment.
So you mentioned precision medicine. This is a precision treatment.
Absolutely.
So many people talk about precision medicine in a sort of pie in the sky way. And you're doing it. What have been kind of some of the challenges and some of the advantages and rewards of that?
I think the advantages are, well, one, there was a lot of trial and error pathway to figure out which biomarker worked. Initially there were 4 in our last study, 4 different biomarkers, and we looked at what happened in that study. We saw that one in particular did really well, and some of the others didn't, and that caused the overall study to not do as well. So we're moving forward with that smaller patient population. The good news is now we've got 2 prior studies based on that particular biomarker where we've seen really positive results. So I think the benefit of precision medicine is that you're treating patients where you've got data that shows it should help them. And when we talk to the insurance companies, they love that approach too, because one thing they hate to do is pay for a drug where there's a question to whether it even helped the patient or not. But if you got data that says, well, if they test positive for this, we've got all this data that shows it should work. So it opens the door for higher reimbursement and lower costs for patients.
So what's next for you guys? Are you developing additional therapies? Are you what's your kind of look forward for 2026?
Well, we're laser focused on this indication, alcohol use disorder. So that's our focus, is to get into the clinic for the phase 3 program. Hopefully, if things go as planned, we'd be enrolling patients later this year in that study. and then completing that trial, and then taking the data to FDA and hopefully move toward commercialization at some point.
That's always a little risky to be laser focused, right? Because if you're one program, you must be very confident.
Yeah, we're very confident in that, and you've got several studies, that were already done. We've narrowed it down to the highest probability of success. And we're a relatively small company, so we don't have time really at this point to chase a bunch of different ideas. We zeroed on the one we think has the highest chance of success, and we're going for it. So that's our strategy.
That's great. What have you kind of been up to at the conference? And taking meetings, going to.
Lots of meetings. It's been a really active conference. I think the general view is that the biotech biopharm market is getting better. That money's coming back into it, which is good for small companies like us. Very positive. Lots of good meetings with potential investors and analysts that are very interested in what we're doing and what our story is. And the great thing about what we're focused on, everybody has a story. They know someone that struggled with alcohol use disorder. So it resonates with people, which makes the meetings a lot easier than if you're talking about some rare disease that no one really has heard of before.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's all I had. Thank you so much. It's really interesting to hear. I mean, I'm always learning about new, treatments and companies, and it's a really interesting approach.
Yeah, we appreciate the time, and we'd love to talk to you again as we make progress in our goal to bring this drug to patients that are really suffering with this disease.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.